I went on a journey to Anglesey, hunting for megaliths. I took a tour with Neil MacDonald and his megalithic tours. We went in search of standing stones, cromlechs and burial chambers. Excuse my Welsh pronunciation, but first stop was bryn-celli-ddu, or bryn-celli-ddu, as it is pronounced. This is a chamber tomb, and inside is a long stone which has recently been discovered to be actually a fossilised tree. It's a chamber tomb dome, 27-foot passageway leading into a small chamber. The chamber has 5 walls and it's said to be connected to Venus. At the winter solstice, the light shines through onto the fossilised tree that's inside, and at certain other times of the year, Venus itself passes a light through onto this same standing stone. The chamber within is capped by 2 capstones, giant ones they are, and inside we found a druid symbol painted onto one of the beams. They think it was probably late Neolithic as a henge, but I myself think it's much older than that. It has a large set of stones set around it, and at the entrance there was found, when it was excavated, a skeleton of a bull, though another guidebook I have says it was an ox and that it was found in an enclosure framed with stone and timber. A ritual, perhaps? This chamber has 2 entrances, and the one at the front's got a stone with markings on it, which seem to be of a spiral design, though it's kind of hard to tell what the shape is. In my other guidebook it says that inside a fire had been lit, or there's remains of a pit, and at the bottom of the pit a human ear bone was found. Bryn-celli-ddu, the mound in the dark grove. Continuing along the western coast, we next stopped at Boudoir burial chamber, which is a polygonal chamber, never excavated but fenced off to stop it running around. It's got 5 upright stones and it has a huge pyramidical shaped top capstone, or mushroom shaped as many people say. It's actually fenced off to stop the sheep and the cows rubbing themselves up against it, getting to them itches with a nice big stone. It's situated quite high up and looks out over the mountains in the distance. Its name means the body of Ur, and Ur is an earth deity, though I often wonder if Ur actually means earth as in the planet. My own thoughts on these kind of monuments is that they weren't built by humans. I think they were built by people before us, whether they were giants, long-skulled humans or long-skulled giants, I'm not sure, but I don't think it was humans that made them. St. Cyril's hermitage and sacred well is set in Penmon. This was a hermitage that St. Cyril stayed in, or lived in, and this beautiful little well was all holy water. It is a very peaceful place, and one can see why he would choose such a site to settle in. The well was visited by the sick and the infirm for its healing powers, and the well chamber is built against a vertical rock face, and this goes on to form part of the cell that the monk lived in. Set just next to it is St. Cyril's Church and Priory. This looks south-east across the Menai Strait. Inside the church we find a shield and a gig and a Celtic cross, though it's One of its sides has been taken off because it was used for part of the building originally. And a wee carving of a dragon can be found on the back door. I wonder if St Cyril originally lived in a cave, and then over the years, maybe after he passed on, other monks came and perhaps turned it into the cell that it is now. Anglesey burial chamber has one of the largest capstones I've ever seen, and it sits on 8 low stones, and inside you can see that it's been dug out. The great capstone's got to be 5 foot tall. It must weigh about 25 tons. It was excavated in 1908 and the bones of humans were found. Between 15 and 30 people, they think. Animal bones and shells were also found. This is another one that's fenced off to stop it running around. It kind of reminds me of the luggage from Discworld. It should be able to just walk off on its little tiny legs. Anglesey ancient settlement, quite high up in the hills overlooking the land. It's like a stone town or village. Lots of buildings, some of the stones are huge, some are quite small. One even looks like it's smiling. Anglesey ancient settlement. Moor standing stone was actually my favourite one when we went to Anglesey. Seems to get quite a nice vibe off it. It looks beautiful standing there in a field all by itself, though I feel like it was a she, even though it's meant to be a male-shaped one. This stone is over 9 foot tall. Llwgnaf burial chamber. This was excavated in 1977. It seems to have 3 structural phases throughout it, each represented by a stone burial chamber with a covering mound. Pottery and human bones have been found at this site. It seems to still have both ends, but the middle section of it has collapsed. Holyhead has some amazing stones and sites. These 2 stones, Penrhos Falw standing stones, look out over Holyhead Mountain. They're possibly over 10 feet tall. I didn't take my measuring stick, but they were huge. I had a little dance around them. Barglodiad Caras burial chamber. I'm pretty sure I've said all that wrong. Was an amazing sight, and we managed to get the key from the shop and get to go inside. This sits atop of quite a high cliff edge, looking out over the sea and back across the land. Inside were many stones. A couple of them had spiral curves drawn into them. But I do wonder, why did they put so many stones? Not really aligned in any way, but just piled up, it seemed to me, or standing next to each other, more like lots of people crowded at a bus stop. It was pretty dark in there, so I had a bit of trouble filming. And they say the name means the giantess apron fold. Because the story was that a giantess and her husband giant were walking along carrying lots of stones, and they were trying to get to the other part of the country, and they kind of gave up and threw their stones down on the floor into this pile. There have been excavations in here. It's said to uncover traces of a fire which appears to have been burnt for some time. And also inside were found 3 inner passage stones were found to be decorated with a variety of lightly pecked and incised designs of spirals, chevrons, zigzags and lozenges, which were rather difficult to film in the dark. So it's a 23-foot long passage into the chamber. Originally there were thought to be 3 smaller side chambers, one to the east, one to the west, one to the south, and each of these were covered with a capstone, but only the south capstone survives. In the annex that was going to the south, in the excavations there were found cremated remains of 2 men, and along with these 2 burnt men were broken bone and antler. In fact, it seems traces of bones were found all round the chambers. We visited the church of St. Cadwaladr, and inside we found lots of green men up on the walls, though some look like green women. A lovely Celtic cross with lots of symbolism up and down it. And what would Wales be without dragons? And a monkey. Why a monkey? I don't know. I need to look into that symbolism. But there are 2 dragons on this church. One looks like a dragon, and the other one I thought at first was a giant serpent, but is a dragon too. Bryn-celli-ddu. I probably said that wrong as well. But these 2 standing stones were amazing, huge megaliths. It's believed that they were part of once a standing stone circle, and that would have been impressive to see. And it's a shame it's not still there now. One can find out more about this in Henry Rowland's book, Mona Antiquia Restaurata. Anglesey, the beloved mystical isle, full of stories of druids, witches, ancient monuments, walking stones, giants, and just wonderful countryside.